Hello and welcome back to the Emotionless podcast. My name is Logan, and as always, I will be your host. So today's episode is a little bit different than normal because unlike every other episode in this series, I actually will not be referencing Claire at all. Other than to say that she has filed a report. So this will be mostly from my point of view today and other points of view. So, I woke up on March 10th to an email from Cheryl Nichols, who was the Vice President of Student Engagement and Success and also the Title IX coordinator for the school in agreement with the brand new Title IX Amendment Education Act, which was in agreement with the Education Amendment Act of 1972 or something like that. And she basically goes, hey, I need to meet with you as soon as possible. When is a good time that works for you out of these listed times? And I picked March 12th at 1 o'clock p.m. I was definitely a little nervous because I figured they had already called me into her office several times that semester to yell at me for stupid things involving my contract that I had made that will be available in another series called Life Skills. So I figured it was just to yell at me about that. And so I go to her office at 1 o'clock p.m. and I check in with the receptionist, and she comes right out of her office. She's like, Logan, you're here. Wonderful. Come on into my office. Because there was her waiting area for her office, and then her actual office. And she goes, how you doing, Logan? Would you like some water? Do you want some piece of fruit, crackers, anything like that? And I'm like, why are you being so nice to me? What are you gonna tell me? And she's like, I have some very upsetting news to tell you. And I want to make sure you are relaxed and in a good headspace before I tell you, because this is probably going to make you cry. And I'm like, just lay it on me. This semester's already sucked ass. Everyone here sucks ass. Everything here is just awful. This place does not care about any of its students. She's like, that's harsh, considering I work here. A little bit hurt by that. And I said, if you don't want me to say that, don't suck ass. I straight up said that to her. I was like, if you don't want to have the place you work at be called awful, don't be awful. It's not that hard. So, she's like, remember how you made that contract, and part 5 of that contract was, you are not going to hang out with Claire. And I'm like, yep, I remember that. And remember how you've been completely ignoring that contract and hanging out with Claire anyways? I'm like, yep, I remember that. Because I am a free man to make my own free choices. And she goes, you certainly are. And I'm actually glad you brought up that point, because that, my friend, is a two-way street. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, the same way you're free to make your own choices, I'm free to make my own choices. Dr. Marcus is free to make his own choices. Your professors are free to make their own choices. Your friends, Jessica and whatever, are free to make their own choices. But you know who else falls in that category of free to make their own choices? And I go, who? She goes, Claire. And I'm like, why are you telling me this? I haven't talked to her in almost a month. I could care less about her. She's annoying. She causes drama, and I don't want anything to do with her. She's like, well, I'm glad you said that, but it's a little too late for that. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she goes, Claire has opened a sexual misconduct claim against you. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And she goes, yep, Claire says that you have committed sexual misconduct, and now the school is opening an investigation against you. And I'm like, cool, close it. It's not real. I promise you it's just for revenge, whatever it is. I have no idea what you're talking about, but I promise it's just for revenge. And she goes, that's not how this works. Once a claim has been made, it must be thoroughly investigated for legitimacy, and then a hearing must be held where a judge will make a final decision on your sentence for and your repercussions for what has happened. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? I looked her up and down and I go, you know, and I know that I'm not going to waste my time with this, so you might as well close it now, because I will not be participating, and I will make this the most difficult process in the world for you. And she goes, Logan, again, you are free to do that. But this is now a legal case with a legal advisor involved and a lawyer involved. So if you refuse to cooperate with the investigator and refuse to give them information, charges will be pressed on you. And you will be deemed automatically guilty. And I'm like, you can't legally do that. Oh, she's like, but I can. You see, because when you signed that contract to get here, to attend this school, the student handbook contract, you agreed to all these proceedings should a claim be opened against you. And I'm like, I didn't read that. And you're like, yeah, because no one does. And everyone should. And I'm like, can you tell me what claims she has made? And she goes, nope, I cannot, unfortunately, at this time. We are still putting that together. We are still getting all the information that we need. So at this time, I cannot. And I'm like, well, you're going to have to, because I will not leave this office until you do. And she goes, Logan, you're already in enough trouble as is. Don't do this to yourself. And I'm like, what do you mean? I was like, I will have campus safety come in here and drag you out if I have to. I understand you're upset. I get that. I get that you're pissed. I totally understand that. But I'm here to support you, and I'm here to support her. I don't care who's right. I don't care who's wrong. I don't care who did what. I don't care who's taking whose side. You did something. It was alleged. Well, you allegedly did something. A formal complaint was filed. And now something must be opened. And so I took a deep breath. Went. I got up out of my chair. I shook her hand. I looked her dead in her eyes. And I said, fuck you. Fuck her. Fuck Dr. Marcus. Fuck this school. Fuck the president. Fuck his wife. Fuck everyone that works here. Fuck everything about this institution. You don't give a fucking shit about any of us. And I will expose your ass one day. And you will be shut down forever. I hope you get fired before the end of this month. Walked out. I slammed the door. The receptionist looked at me like I was crazy, which, valid reaction. And I said, I hope you have a wonderful day. I'm going to go kill myself. And I walked into the student center and walked out the back door. And as soon as I got to the back door, campus security met me and was like, hey, bud, we were just called and told a lot of information about you. And I'm like, I'm sure you were. I was expecting you guys, actually. You just reminded me, I forgot to tell you, fuck you and fuck you too, because you guys don't actually protect this campus or care about anybody who's on this campus, because if you did, you would have protected me and saved me when a potential school shooter made themselves known. But no, instead, you decided that it was not important to investigate or talk to anyone about, because I talked to the person who I allege, and they said that you've never come and talked to them, so clearly you don't give a fucking shit about any of us, you don't give a fucking shit about anyone on this fucking campus, and you don't fucking care about any of our well-being, and you'd like to see us all get shot up and watch our brains splatter all over the fucking walls so you can take our blood and paint a new sign, or maybe paint your sidewalks or your building. And they said, bud, you're coming with us. And I said, absolutely the fuck I am not. I don't know who the fuck you think you are, but let me tell you this, I will not be going with you. And I may or may not have a sharp object in my pocket that I am not afraid to use. It was a knife. And then we just stood there in silence for a second. I started walking. They started following me. And I walked over to the counseling center. Now, something nice about this counseling center is it has a very particular rule. And that particular rule is, unless campus safety is requested by either a student or a counselor who is actively in the counseling center, they are not allowed to enter the counseling center because the counseling center is deemed a safe place, where you are allowed to confess to things with no consequences, unless it's the harm of you, unless it's unless it's a consequence to harm yourself, harm others, or you know of somebody who is harming somebody else. And so I walk in, I sit down at the table, because this was like an old farmhouse that was renovated, and I write a note to my counselor, Cindy, basically just saying, hey, I need to talk to you when you have a moment. A lot of shit has happened. Don't really know what's going on. Can we talk in a moment? And I slid it under her door, even though there was a sign on her door that said it was in session. And I just heard through the door, hang on. And, I hear the paper be picked up through the door. And then I just hear, hang on one moment. And she opens her, she's like, Logan, I'm in a session right now. And I'm like, I'm glad to hear that. That's fantastic. I just need to talk to you when you have a moment. She's like, okay, it's going to be a minute because I have a session right after this. I'm like... And I said, okay, I've got nowhere to be, so I can wait as long as it takes. And she was like, all right, just go wait in the meditation room, I suppose. And then I heard the phone ring in her office, and I heard her say, hang on, I'm so sorry again. And she picked up the phone. She's like, hello, this is Cindy, blah, 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 counselor, registered mental health counselor at Beacon College. How can I help you? And she was like, I just hear, oh my. Well, goodness. Jeez. Well, that's extreme. Yeah, no, he's out in the kitchen. Yeah, okay, I will cancel my next appointment and talk to him immediately. Okay, thank you for letting me know. Bye-bye. And, that was that, I waited in the counseling center for a little bit, and then she came out to talk to me. I'm actually going to end this episode here just so I don't run over time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. As always, follow us on all of our socials, emotions_podcast on Twitter, officially Emotionless on TikTok, and at emotionless.podcast.official on Instagram. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.